So I picked up Avowed. Well, technically I rented it on Game Pass. And I feel I'm in a fairly unique position to review this game for you in a less biased way than a lot of people might. Why do I feel that way? Because I had no hype for it. I just started looking into it about a week and a half ago, and I thought it was already out, but I saw that it wasn't, and it was coming out today. I'm recording this on February 18th. So while I'm waiting for Monster Hunter Wilds to come out, I need something to fill the gap. And I figure this game, it doesn't look great, it doesn't look bad. It's something to do until Wilds comes out. Now, like I said, I had no hype leading up to this, so I don't have a negative opinion because I thought it would be better. I don't have an overly positive opinion because I'm trying to convince myself it's better. I'm also somebody who, when Skyrim came out, really loved it. I think most of us were. And I've been waiting for a follow-up to Skyrim for a while, and this seems to be the closest thing we're going to get for the next 30 years. So let's take a minute to talk about this game. So, first I'll give you the basic idea of what it is. It's Skyrim-like. It's like Skyrim. First-person action RPG. It's got a few more RPG bells and whistles, like you'll have cooldown spells like in an MMO. The blocking and attacking works basically like a Bethesda game, except it seems like there's more focus put on where you hit the enemy, more on that later when we talk about combat. The character creation is fine. I'm not going to say it's amazing, because it's not. It's not terrible either, even bad. The thing is, I feel it could have been a little more in-depth, but a lot of games go way off the rails with character creation to where I just don't know what to do with anything. I'll be looking at it, I'll be like Charlie trying to play Simon and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but Charlie, don't get lost in that, okay?
I got the first one, bro! Uh-oh. Ooh. Ooh. It just threw me a curveball here. Did you catch that?
This one allowed me to create a character I was happy with. There are a few other changes I would have liked to make. There are a few sliders that could have been there, but I'm not going to complain about this. The world is good. The world is very nice looking. The lore is interesting. Of course, it's based on another game by Obsidian. I can't remember the title of offhand. I'll put it in the captions. But overall, yeah, lore is good. The characters are all right. Overall, I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm not going to clickbait you. I'm going to tell you basically how I felt about the game right now, and you could go later into the review if you want to hear a more in-depth thing, see if the game is for you. But I'm going to tell you I can describe this game in one word in terms of how I feel about it. It's enough. This game is just aggressively enough. It's not a generation-defining masterpiece. It's not the big blockbuster AAA game we've all been waiting for. It's just a good game. And I think that's enough. Now, as I said, we're going to go into a little more detail, but first, a word from our sponsor. Nobody. We don't have sponsors and we don't do ads. Another great reason to follow Save Awesome Studio. But let's jump into gameplay first, because I think that's one of the more important things people look for in a game like this. So how does combat work? Well, like I said, it's a Skyrim-like game. You're going to have one weapon in one hand, another weapon or a shield or a spell book in the other, and spells work a little differently. We'll get to that in a moment. And you're going to have two sets of weapon you can have equipped at all times. You're going to have one set and then an alt set. But when you got to have, for example, a wand or a spell book, because you're going to need to cast fire spells to get through certain areas. Something else I love about this game is just the interactivity of the environment. We'll get to that when we get to exploration. Sometimes it can feel like you wish you had a third set of weapons, but you don't really need it. So what do? Now, I played on PC. Those are the controls I'm going to be expressing. Left mouse button to swing whatever weapon you have. Right mouse button to block or swing your alt weapon. In the case of a bow, obviously as usual, both hands. In the case of a spell book, now that's how you cast spells. You don't just equip a spell like you would in Skyrim. You'll get a spell book and it'll have, like, for example, spell book of the elements. And you'll have about 4 different elements you can use. I've only used fire because I have, like, an almost no intelligence build. It's all dexterity. I'm building a quick moving type character because that's the kind of character I like to play. But the spell book is still a good tool to have. Speaking of mobility, you also have a dodge. It's not a dodge roll. It's a quick jump to the side, left or right. And I like it because I feel like in Skyrim, a lot of the time, you're just kind of maneuvering your character around and it doesn't feel real. And I'm going to be comparing this to Skyrim a lot because, once again, it's a Skyrim-like game. Now, I know you can add dodge rolls and stuff to Skyrim with mods, but, that's kind of a lot of work. But anyway, the dodging feels good. I do wish that there was a different button for dodging because you use the jump button. So sometimes you'll jump by accident. At least I did. Maybe I just suck. But you get options. You can also have a shield on you, and you can dodge or use your shield. And there are going to be different situations where each one is applicable. And the great thing about this is it feels like every single weapon, every move you have, it's all applicable in different situations. This is something Skyrim didn't have. Skyrim handed you the ability to swing a sword, use a shield, run, walk, jump, and that was basically it. Sword could translate to, hammer or spell. Skyrim was very simple, and that worked for what they were doing because they wanted it to feel like you could do whatever you want. This game doesn't quite have that. Again, more on this when we get to exploration. Right now we're talking about combat. But you also get a little hotbar at the bottom where you get different spells, different cooldown type spells that your character might use. Like there'll be skills. For example, the one I have, it brings up a bunch of vines to wrap up an enemy and hold them still. That is great for a mobility build. You can really build your character any way you want. Pick what stats you want, what weapons you want, and work around that. It's like Skyrim in that way, where you have freedom to build your character any way you want based on what you want to do. It's just not as intuitive as Skyrim, where in Skyrim, you got points in what you did the most. So to build your character, you just play him the way you want to play him. That's one of the things I really love about Skyrim, and I hope carries over to Elder Scrolls 6. But this system works just as well. It requires a little more thinking and a little more planning, but once you start to learn it, it's a lot of fun. Now, we covered combat. Let's get to exploration, because I teased a few things I'm going to talk about exploration. The exploration is Skyrim. It's very much like Skyrim. I don't think it's as big as Skyrim, but I also haven't finished the game. It's not like a lot of games now that are procedurally generated. It is a specifically tailored world to feel a specific way. In many ways, that's better. There's a lot to see. I mean, one thing I am going to say is I ran across a lot of enemies that I couldn't beat. I was able to run away just fine. Skyrim really wasn't like that. Skyrim kind of scaled the level to wherever you were in the world. Some areas were a little harder, but it was still doable. This isn't one of those games. This is a more classic RPG where some areas are just beyond your level, and you just can't go there yet, and that's fine too. Again, I don't have a preference between the scaled world idea and just the idea of, you know, you're not ready for that yet. This game also has a much more interesting equipment improvement system. Now, I don't really want to talk much about that because there's not a terrible lot to say. It's just that you can do a lot more with your equipment and tailor it a lot more than just improving the quality. But anyway, this is what happened to me. I went out on a quest that I wasn't ready for yet because I didn't read the fine print. The fine print being the skull next to the quest that I just ignored. So I made my way out to this quest and I fought a bunch of thieves who were pretty tough, but I got through. Then I was fighting a bunch of lizard men who, they were regenerating health, and basically you had to take them out in one combo. Physically impossible for me to do at my level. So I went back and decided to try some other things. On my way back to town, because I didn't realize there was fast travel, because again, I'm an idiot, but I ran into a cave full of spiders. Now, there were some skulls around, but I thought, okay, I'm going to try it anyway. And it was tough. It was very tough. There were a lot of enemies. They were tearing me apart. The boss comes in and is destroying me. But I managed to squeak by, and the level of satisfaction in beating something that was actually difficult, but not so difficult you wanted to throw your computer out the window like Dark Souls. They found a good balance of difficulty and fun in this game, and I am definitely here for that. So exploration is pretty good. It's not as much as in Skyrim where, you know, for example, if you want to make potions, there's stuff literally everywhere. There are things you can pick up, crafting materials, things you can eat, but it's not like Skyrim where you just pick everything and see what it does. I'm not going to do that hand motion again. But it works. It's simpler than Skyrim. The world is simpler. Again, I don't have a size comparison. I have not finished the game, and I haven't looked into any of that. But it feels like enough. Now, let's talk about other lore-related stuff. Let's talk about dialogue, for example. It's really not... There's not a lot of environmental storytelling. I'll tell you that right off the bat. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I like environmental storytelling. It's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of things you'll learn from the people who are with you, and that's okay. It's not my preferred method, but it's okay. It works. There's some interesting things people have spoken about, and I love the story of this. Like, I don't know the games that led up to it. It was Pillars of something, again, I'll put it in the caption. But genuinely, the idea is, it's a world where there's a constant wheel of reincarnation. People die, they're reincarnated. Does that remind you of one of my favorite games ever? You'll have no idea who I am, so you wouldn't know that. Legacy of Kain. It gives me a Legacy of Kain vibe. The idea that the cycle of life and death is becoming corrupt in some way. I haven't gotten far enough to see the full implications of that, but it pulled me in. As for your allies, you pick up some good ones along the way. One of them is voiced by the same guy as Garrus, and if you watch my gameplay video, my first part, I start freaking out when I realize that's who it is. For those of you who don't know Garrus, he is one of the best teammates in Mass Effect, and I love Mass Effect. And I did feel a similar vibe when I was talking to people to Mass Effect. Like, I actually wanted to hear what they had to say. Is it the best dialogue ever? As has been made abundantly clear by the community, it's not even close. The dialogue isn't fantastic, but once again, I'm going to use that word, that E word. Enough. It's good enough to keep you enjoying the game. Again, not every game needs to be a masterpiece. So, anything else that really stood out about it? The art style. The way the world looks, the way the characters look, the faces are a little but again, leagues ahead of Bethesda. The monsters are cool. The lore is interesting. The artwork in general, just like the designs for these creatures, are cool. One thing I noticed, and this might be that my PC, I wouldn't say it's quite a dinosaur, but it's getting there. The game ran very well on my old PC because it compiling shaders, you've seen it before, it tailors it to run, and they do a pretty good job of that. I saw stutters really only when I was in town around a lot of people, but whenever I was on a quest, no stuttering. Worked perfectly fine. Tangent aside, I noticed the water looks kind of gelatinous. Waterfalls look like jelly falls. Now, there are a lot of people about to attack their keyboard and scream, "Graphics don't matter!" They do. Graphics matter. They're not the most important thing in the game. In fact, they're one of the least important things in the game, but least important doesn't mean not important. Your presentation matters because it's a visual medium. Now, I'm not going to say that the graphics in this game were bad enough to really even affect it. I noticed the water thing, but the game looks good overall. Again, it's enough. That's going to be the key word for this review. Enough. The game is rated E for enough. Now, as a game that was just basically me trying to fill the void until Monster Hunter Wilds comes out, I'm going to enjoy this. Do I think I'll be coming back to it in years? No, maybe once or twice. I might even come back to it when I need a break from Wilds sometime in 2028. But what do I have to say overall? I've said it in the very beginning. It's enough. Is it worth $70? I don't think any game is worth $70, but there's a lot of other games out there that I would say are on par with it that, you know, are equally as worth $70 as this is, if that makes any sense at all. And if it's a game that interests you, pick it up. It's not going to disappoint you if you're not thinking it's going to be the greatest masterpiece of all time. Of course, the very toxic gaming community has already decided it's the worst game ever because it's not the best game ever. If you're really unsure about it, do what I did. I got a free month of Game Pass. I had a little code sitting on my desk that I hadn't used yet, and I thought, okay, well, I need something. I may as well try Avowed. Now, funny story, I thought it was already out when I did that 2 days ago, and it wasn't. Because I saw people playing it, I forgot about review copies. But I would say it's well worth playing it for free, just about anything is. I'd say it's worth picking up Game Pass for a month to play it. Heck, I'd even say if this is your type of game, it's even worth buying. Just as worth it as any other game out now is. But I am looking forward to seeing what Obsidian will release in the future. I know that like their big break, I think, was Outer Worlds, and I didn't love that one, so I wasn't thinking I was gonna enjoy this one as much as I am. So to wrap up, I don't do numbers because numbers are arbitrary. People who do their reviews from a scale of 1 to 10, they don't know what the numbers mean. They didn't figure out a formula for the most part. Instead, I have a 5-level system. Hated it and regret playing it. I want the time back. Didn't like it. Didn't necessarily regret playing it, but I'll never touch it again. Liked it. Glad I played it. May not play it again. Loved it. Will play it again. Had a great time. And absolute masterpiece. There ain't going to be a lot of those. So if you really want to think of it in scale of numbers, it's 1 to 5 for me. I'm going to put this one at a strong 3.5. It's somewhere between I liked it, though I don't know if I'll be coming back to it, and loved it, definitely going to play it again. I might play it again. I don't know. It definitely seems like one of those games that I'd pick up and put down here and there, and that, again, is enough. So if you've been listening to me ramble for this long, I thank you. I really appreciate it. If you stayed to the end, that really helps me out. If you left a comment, again, at least 3 words, just pick 3 dirty words you know that you think are funny and put them in the comments. That helps me. If you hit that like button and that subscribe button, that helps me even more. We're trying very hard to get to 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize this. For those of you who don't know, I was already monetized over on TikTok, and they're screwing me over 6 ways from Sunday. So I'm really trying to monetize YouTube so I can start building here. So if you could subscribe, it would mean everything to me. And keep an eye out, because I'm recording and playing this game. Part 1's already up. I don't know how far into it I'm going to get because Monster Hunter Wilds comes out in 9 days now, and that's definitely what I'm going to be playing in the near future. But we'll see where we get, and maybe we'll play it when I need a break from Wilds again sometime in 2048. I keep extending the number. Ve Victus, save awesome. We'll see you next time.